Welcome back, PlayBASIC coders. Today is the 4th of September 2025. As per usual, a quick update on what's happening with the 165 revision of PlayBASIC. The last week I've probably spent most of my time working on the phrasing and making some replacements, make some subtle changes to the language and filling in a few gotchas. Here's an older command called Undim All. This is not a great example, but we'll pick through it. So we've got a type at the top there, a structure, a function that creates some local arrays in here. The way this command used to work would be it would undim any array in the tree, so which was pretty dangerous actually. I think it was changed at some later point to be scope based, but even so, it's not great. It's not a command I actually like, and I did think about just removing it altogether. But I've left it in for completeness because I know it's used in a couple of situations here or there. So hopefully it's still functioning the way it was. Now it's tied to the scope. So if you call Undim All in the global scope, it will release all of the arrays within the global scope. We'll run this in debug mode. Might be hard to spot this up here, but variables up here. So in main, which is a global scope, we've got a typed array and a typed variable. We call test, so these arrays inside test are initialized because their arrays are static in PlayBASIC in the older versions of PlayBASIC. Now, if I hit run again, press any key, says it's done. Now we take a look at these arrays here. They're been undimmed, but the arrays that are in test 1, they still exist. And that's how it should work. So if I put this undim all at the end of here, what we would see is even when I call this function, at the end of the function, they'll all be cleaned up and we should have a kind of convenient way for getting rid of a bunch of arrays. Let's have a look at it. Let's just hit stop, go to test 1, and all of those arrays are not dimensioned. So it's kind of shorthand for getting rid of arrays within a scope. Yeah, okay. I don't love it, but it's there for you to use still. We'll see how we go with it in the future. All right, so the next thing that's been changed is that you can make an assignment between a variable and an array handle. So it will get the array handle for you. This was not possible before. It was actually considered an illegal thing to do. But given it's used a lot in programs now, I use this kind of approach, but I pass it through a function all the time to do this very thing. So this is much simpler. What we're getting here is a bunch of allocation handles inside the runtime. But those handles represent these arrays as they were at this point in time. The way you would do it in older versions of PlayBASIC, if you're interested, you might have get handle function. You might have like a local me array or a handle array as we call it. You might just pass me out the other side. See what we get. So we're just trying to do that with table. We'll pass table in by handle and see if we should get the same buffer back, and we do. So really, this is just shorthand for having to write a function that does this. We're kind of passing it in, then passing the handle back. That was exposing the handle for us to do stuff with. So you can use that to create dynamic arrays. If you're not sure about that stuff, use the make array function. It's kind of outside the scope of the conversation. Next problem. In updating the phraser for global statement and local statement, we'll check those out in a second. This one I ran into, which was a logical problem that's not possible in PlayBASIC the way this looks. So I've implemented an error for this now, but we'll have a look at it anyway. So here we have a normal program, global scope. We've got a scope there called test, or a function called test. Inside that thing, we have a declaration of global and a variable called A. Now the question is A going to be global or local? Let's run the program and answer that. Well, it doesn't allow us to do that because even though old versions of PB would allow this, this is no longer acceptable syntax. We would actually have to put, if we put the global statement even after test and ran this, we should get an okay result. Yeah. So A within test is 121212, and the global version of A, or the instance of A, is also that value. So this variable has been carried, is visible outside of the scope here. What old versions of PB would do is, if you've had a statement like this inside a function, they would effectively just become locals. They couldn't be accessed anywhere else. It's problematic for the way the compiler works. It does this single pass tracing. You would need multiple passes to pick up these statements in the first pass, and then to be aware of what variables are global and scope them appropriately. So we can't really do that in PB as it stands. But I think it's better to have a warning or an error to say, hey dude, this is something the compiler can't do. Whereas in older versions of PlayBASIC, this will compile and run, and you'll be scratching your head all day going, why doesn't this work? All right, and the last little bit of today's update is this revision of the global phrasing. It's not quite complete yet, but what we had in PB as it stood was that you've got dim, which is the classic way you declare arrays in BASIC. So you can declare array or a variable, and there is two different ways you can kind of do variables. For example, you could have, you know, my int. If you want to, for readability, you can attach a data type. So my int is definitely going to be an integer. You go my float as float. Now, because PlayBASIC is multi-instance, it will expect you to use this with a hash in it for it to be the same variable. Now, that's all lovely, right? But the global statement and local, actually, and static, which are all kind of phrased with the same basic logic. So once we update one of these, we should be able to get them all to work the same way. This will only handle variables. So you could have like my int, my float thing, my string, or whatever. They can be global across the program from the point of its declaration below. Any lines below this, they're visible. But lines above it, they're not visible. You're actually declaring a local version of it. Yeah, okay. I mean, you probably should pick those things up. I guess we could probably do that to try and weed out any logical problems that may arise from doing something like that. One thing you couldn't do is you couldn't have, see below here we have a type. So with dim, I can go, well, my alien as T alien, sorry, alien pointer. If I could spell pointer, it would be good. Pointer. This is going to be attached or declared as being local. If I want to access that variable inside other functions, just for simplicity's sake, like I can with a variable declared like this, which is just like, you just ditch the pointer, it wasn't possible. So that's what sent me down this rabbit hole. I thought, well, let's add that feature if we can add it, and we'll also expand the support for the phrasing so we can make it more robust. So we can have global will accept this kind of syntax if you want it. You also just have stacked shorthand syntax. A few other ones there, as you can see. These can be stacked on one line now as well, which is, I don't think is supported with the other one. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Maybe it is. I'm not sure now. So in our example, I've declared a bunch of globals in here, given them a value, and then I'm just accessing them through a function and printing out their results. So this is what the call here is doing. So let's have a look at this. I'll run it in debug mode. We've got a bunch of debug data here from the console. So across the variables, these are all the variables that are declared. And that's good. It's pinpointing them all as global. That's what we wanted. I mean, there's one problem there, isn't it? Like, it wasn't actually showing this as a scope. I think it's not showing it as a scope because there are no actual locals in this scope. If we had a variable like, you know, I don't know, temp or something, result or something like that, A plus B or something, then we should see the scope popping through. Yeah. What these things do is they iron out little gotchas that people would run into. I've run into this problem a few times and was like, oh gee, I thought that was added a while ago, but it wasn't. And when I looked through the back end of the old compiler, I noticed there's provision for doing this, but the phrasing was so kludgy it couldn't really support it. The one difference at the moment is you can't do assignments with these statements, which you could do with the older version of it. It should support remarks as well. So if I put a remark on the end of a line, like rem, hello, whatever, it should compile okay, good, that's good. I do worry about some of those things, and you should be able to nest these things inside the expression. I haven't tried this, we'll see how we go. Rem start, this is a comment, rem end. I don't know why you want to do that, but you know, people do stuff. Good, that works correctly. What you can't do at the moment is have, if I pull that out, you can't go, hey, equals 45, which would insert a move at this line, my int, it would move 45 into my int at this point here. So the declaration is going to work as two different parts. We're adding a variable to the internal compiler variable tables, and in some cases we're generating instructions. So if we have an assignment there, then this will generate an instruction, but the actual declaration doesn't generate any code at all. Dimensions are different. They're normally with arrays. You know, if you have an array, 100 or something like that, this is a declaration statement and it's also an initialization point, because the compiler inserts effectively It sets up this array of 1 dimensions with 100 integers within it. So it does an allocation pretty much. So if you did something like, I mean, the classic one that people run into in BASIC is I'll do this. I go print array 1. I go, geez, why can't I run my program? It's not declared yet. Oh, okay, I'll move the declaration above this. Right. Pretty cool, right? What if you have some logic in here? That same thing is true. The declaration is appearing before it's used, but it's an optional execution though, isn't it? So this won't run. Array is not dimension. Just something to be conscious about. Whereas variables that are created using the dim statement, like really dim and local for variables are basically the same thing. Now, if you use static's only useful with inside a function. It really has no use outside of functions. So, anyway, so I'll try and wrap these changes up, get the next build out, but we've been doing a fair bit of work on this. I just want to have the same syntactical rules as before. So the main addition now is going to be, is adding this one. Oh, goodness gracious. Here, which should not compile yet. I've converted the phrasing of this statement from the internal tokenization and lexer had this nibbling approach where it was kind of a cool idea back in the day, but these days it made some things in the compiler hard to do, and declarations was one of them that was really ugly. So the new approach is, it just grabs it phrases this text. It doesn't really identify what it is, and it returns a simplified tokenized version of it, which I then classify manually, and that works out to be much easier. And you don't get things like false declarations of things too. So it's a bit more work. I guess all those things are a bit more work. It's probably easier just to use the internal token request, but this has meant writing a second sort of dumbed down version of the lexer that can step through expressions. It can't step through the whole program. I did think about doing types, but that might be a bridge too far, because the type is phrased with the old lexer, and there are issues with this new approach. Like there are situations where within a type, if you have a type here and you have my array field and you have something like that, now that's actually an expression. The newer solution can't insert expression and resolve expressions with inside the syntax. It actually has a way of doing that. I think it's possible to do that, but for the time being, I'll leave it the way it is, and if it's something we can address later on and makes more sense, then okay. But since syntactically, the other changes I want to make are just little gotchas here or there, and make sure all of those things line up the best they possibly can. Anyway, thanks for listening. I'll see you next time. Bye.